الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده سبحانه ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما واجعل التفرق بعده تفرقا معصوما ولا تدع فينا شقيا ولا محروما. اللهم آمين. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most compassionate, the most merciful, all praise and thanks are due to Him, and peace and blessings be upon His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He who is guided by the will of Allah, no one can misguide him, and he who is misguided, no one can guide him except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I do bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is His messenger. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now today it's our 98th session in the interpretation or the tafsir of the Quran. We will be dealing with verse 246 and 247, which we started last time, but we made an introduction. Today we will delve into the two verses after a quick reminder of the introduction of last time. Now, in these two verses, the Quran tells us about one of the incidents of the children of the Israel, or the people of Israel, or the Israelites. And as you know, the Quran mentions a lot of stories from the previous, nations. The main reason, ممكن حدا يتكرم علي بإغلاق الباب. أبو عمر تقدر تسكر الباب معلش بعد إذنك. الله يكرمك. جزاك الله خير. Sorry for that. Once I hear a kid, I lose my concentration. Subhanallah, what I was saying. You can't imagine what is the level of losing my concentration when I hear the scream of a kid. I lose completely. You know the data? I'm a visual person. When I speak and when I think, I bring data through images, like a movie film, like this. Once someone say, like this, I lose the full image. SubhanAllah. What I was saying. Story of the Quran. Jazakallah. Okay. Last time, part of the introduction, very quickly, just to keep you on the track. And as I can note that some new faces, you are most welcome. Now, the Quran is the constitution of Muslims. And it's the final revelation of God to humanity through a long chain of prophets and messengers, more than 100,000. The last of them, the seal of them, as we believe, is Prophet Muhammad. He was preceded by hundreds and thousands. We don't know by names more than 25 in specific. They were mentioned by their names and part of their stories in the Quran. However, a lot of others, they were not mentioned by specific names, times, or nations. Now, the biggest amount of percentage of stories from the previous nations and prophets for the people of Israel in the Quran. The highest in terms of numbers and stories. Why? It's a decision of God. He decided to teach us through a group of believers in their time. They followed. What comes after Jews and the people of Israel in terms of the percentage of stories? Christianity and Christians. Both of them, they are called for us the people of the book. The stories of the people of the book in general could be one of the highest percentage in the book, because we believe that they are the most two well-known followers of the revelation of God before us. However, we do believe that the nowadays scripture they have is not valid anymore. It used to be the authentic revelation of God in their time. Okay? Now, why I'm mentioning this? Because today we will be dealing with part of these stories. Now, because the history of the children of Israel is immensely wide. It covers more or less something has to do with 4,000 years. So we have tens of incidents. Some of them, they are mentioned in the so-called Bible or the Old Testament and New Testament, and some of them, they are mentioned just in the Quran. They themselves, they don't have it. But why I'm just bringing, just because I need to know part of the methodology, how do we view these things? Number one, stories in general of the Quran. If they are mentioned for a specific purpose, which is to give a lesson for Muslims now. Allah is mentioning stories to reflect upon and to take a lesson, regardless what is the subject of the lesson. This is number one. Now number two. Last time I did not mention that, now it's time. As long as we are talking in specific about the people of the book, you need to know the following now. Many stories could be mentioned in the Quran and in the Bible at the same time. For us, whatever is mentioned in the Quran is completely believed in its full details as part of our revelation. Whatever other differences are mentioned in other books which could be similar, they don't recognize them as an authentic source of information. Are you with me what I'm saying? Yani for example, the story of Joseph, Yusuf alayhi salam, is mentioned with the best details in the Quran, which is the biggest story in the Quran. Pages, more than 100 verse. Okay? طيب. أهلا وسهلا. أهلين البعثة. كيفك حبيبتي؟ أنت اشتقتي لنا كلياتنا زي ما احنا اشتقنا عليك؟ أهلا وسهلا. أعرفكم على ماسة يحيى الشاعر. حبيبتي ما شاء الله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد. For example, the story of Joseph or Yusuf alayhi salam is mentioned in the Quran and in the Bible. We have definitely some similarities, but they have another different things. Whatever different, if you want to quote it just for the sake of knowledge as a student of knowledge. But it should not be used as part of authentic reference of information. Got my point? This is a methodological importance, because once we are dealing with stories, now, a third point, we mentioned part of it last time. One of the main, biggest, well-known characteristic of the methodology of the Quran in mentioning stories, the Quran mentions what we need, not what we would love to know. I repeat, God Almighty mentions in the stories just what He thinks that we need to know, not necessarily what we want or love or we have eager to know. Because by nature, human beings, they have this amazing eagerness to know what? Details of any story. For example, just quick pause now. If someone came to us and said, be careful, car accident outside, immediately. Between who and who? What's the color of the car? What's the make? Who did it? When? How? Yeah. Our minds immediately will start searching for what? Details. Details, while the Quran does not care with unneeded details. So we need to know these simple, things about the methodology of the story of the Quran. Right. And I mentioned last time for you, something has to do what the Quran has not mentioned does not necessarily it has not been mentioned, because sometimes it could be mentioned indirectly. Anyway, let's start with the beginning of the story of today. And I decided to quote some of the verses from the Bible or the Old Testament just to make some differences for you, how some certain details are mentioned or referred to in the Quran compared with the Bible. Just for your information in case, because I know that many Muslims, they don't know the tiny details. When I say the Bible, I'm talking about the book which contains the Old Testament and New Testament. Okay? The whole idea of the Bible, which contains Old and New Testament altogether, it's a Christian issue, not a Jewish issue. Because Jews, they don't recognize the New Testament, okay? Those who recognize the New plus the Old, and they decided to call the Old, and the New are what? Christians, okay? So when we say the Bible, we are talking about Old and New. Old Testament contains many books. The beginning of the Old Testament is the 5 chapters or books of Moses, which we call them the Torah. Plus many other historical books in name of kings and the history of the children of Israel. The New Testament, it contains 4 Gospels. The Gospel of John, the Gospel of Mark, the Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Luke. Plus the 17 messages of Saint Paul, or Shaul in Hebrew, or Saul, or Saul, or Shaul, or Saint Paul in English. His messages as a follower of Jesus Christ, his messages, around 14, I forgot 14 or 17 or 13 anyway, plus the divine vision of John. Now, divine vision of John plus the messages of Saint Paul plus the 4 Gospels, all together they are called New Testament. All of these things together they are called what? Bible. So when you say in the Bible, it could be one of all of these. Okay? Now, ألم ترى إلى الملأ من بني إسرائيل. This is Quran now. Now I'm reciting the Arabic Quran. ألم ترى إلى الملأ من بني إسرائيل من بعد موسى إذ قالوا لنبي له مبعث لنا ملكا نقاتل في سبيل الله قال هل عسيتم إن كتب عليكم القتال ألا تقاتلوا قالوا وما لنا ألا نقاتل في سبيل الله وقد أخرجنا من ديارنا وأبنائنا فلما كتب عليهم القتال تولوا إلا قليلا منهم والله عليم بالظالمين. Have you not seen those chiefs of the children of Israel after Moses? Allah is addressing Prophet Muhammad and anyone who's listening. They said to one of their prophets, appoint for us a king. Look now. Has Allah mentioned who's the prophet? No. ألم تر إلى الملأ إذ قالوا لنبي لهم. So who is the prophet? We don't know.
You said Saul.
Why Allah did not mention?
No, but didn't you say last time Saul?
I'm talking about the Quran now. It is a Bible. That's why I'm taking you Quran and Bible, biblical. Okay. Now, because the fact that he is Saul or Samuel, okay, Saul is Talut. Samuel is the prophet according to the Bible. Samuel, okay? Now, the idea, I just want to pay your attention to the Quranic methodology. The Quran did not mention the name of the prophet. Jazakallahu khairan, barakallahu feek. Thank you. Shukran habibi, jazakallahu khairan. Jazakumullahu khairan. Shukran, 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 barakallahu feekum. So they said to one of their prophets. Now the first message, Allah did not meant to tell us the name of the prophet, nor he even mentioned the exact time or their place. Was it exactly in South Palestine or Palestine? Yes. Was it in the top of Egypt to the northeast side of Sinai? We don't know. Was it exactly 900 years before Jesus Christ? Could be. Was it 1015 years? Could be. We don't know. The Bible does have some information. I will read them now. But for me, when you read, it was such and such, in a specific such and such, in a specific such and such, I don't use them as an authentic source. because they are not mentioned in the Quran. Anyway, they said to one of their prophets, appoint for us a king and we will fight in the cause of Allah. He said, this prophet, to the chiefs or the mala'. The word mala' in the Quran, it talks about people of power, the leaders, the influencers, or at least in our terminology now, people of power, which could be politicians, money, media. All of these categories are people of what? Power. In the Quranic terminology, they are al-mala'. Okay? So this mala', which is the leaders, the influencers, the people of power, they asked this prophet to appoint for us a king. But let me tell you something. It's not mentioned in the Quran, but we know from the history. The norm, traditional norm of the people of Israel, they spent tens and hundreds of years as a religious group representing the religions of God. Part of their always tradition, they used to fight the people for the sake of the Lord with the leadership of a prophet and a king, or a prophet king, or a king of prophet, or a prophet and a king. And when someone is to be their leaders and to fight with them on their behalf, he should be appointed as the king by the prophet of that time. It's part of their tradition. Part of being appointment is to be anointed with sacred oil, zayt muqaddas. Okay? It's like for us when you use the water of Zamzam, for example. Does water of Zamzam has a specific meaning for us or not? Physically and spiritually. So when we drink Zamzam, we believe it does do some specific spiritual and physical influence. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, for example, ma'u Zamzam lima shurib, which means if you drink from the water of Zamzam with a specific intention by the will of Allah, you could be healed. In the tradition of the people of Israel, part of some certain times, when a king was supposed to be appointed as the leader of the people of Israel and to save them from what they are suffering, he should be appointed with the religious authorities preceded him. Part of the religious ceremony should be anointing him with sacred oil. Now, this word in Arabic is masih. That's why the word of Masih was called in Arabic Masih or Messiah or Mashaya or Mashiach. Why? Because it's like a metaphorical usage when we say the king who will be leading us will not be a king unless if he is appointed and anointed by the sacred ceremony by this oil, then it will be like a sign. Now, we have in our political monarchy system, like for example, when King Charles, after the death of Queen Elizabeth, when they assigned him as a king, they do what? What is it?
Put the crown on it.
What do we call this ceremony?
Coronation.
Coronation. It's a specific, protocol. They do it in a specific way. And by the way, it costed them about $4 billion. No problem. No one is in need for this money because it's much more important to spend it. Anyway, this is not my point. Now, this protocol in appointing someone used to be used in the culture of the people of Israel. Okay? That's why they say إِذْ قَالُوا لِنَبِيٍّ لَهُمُ ابْعَثْ لَنَا مَلِكًا نُقَاتِلْ. Appoint to us. This is part of their tradition. But I want to refer to you, it's not just if he is a king, he should be having a religious ceremony containing, being rubbed with the oil. That's why the word Masih, that's why they were waiting Al-Masih. Al-Masih from the word al-mamsuh, which means he was sacredly appointed and anointed by a religious authority from God to be the leader of the people of Israel. Anyway, طيب. Now they said to one of their prophets, appoint for us a king and we will fight in the cause of Allah. He said, are you not going to cower if ordered to fight? They replied, how could we refuse to fight in the cause of Allah while we were driven out of our homes and separated from our children? Now the Quran is telling us that they are replying by saying, how come? Why to cower, not to fight? We were separated and kicked out of our homes. Where? We don't know. When? We don't know. But for sure they were what? Kicked out of their homes. Now look to the very interesting historical thing. Now I will be going to the Tafsir of Tafhim al-Quran by Abu al-A'la al-Mawdudi. Tafhim al-Quran, and he was quoting part of the verses from the Bible about this specific verse. He says, this took place about 1,000 years before Christ. At that time, the Israelites were persecuted by Amalekites who had deprived them from the greater part of Palestine. Can you imagine what happened? 3,000 years? They were kicked out by the Amalekites out of the greater south of Palestine. La ilaha illallah. The prophet Samuel, who was then ruling over the Israelites, was old. All of these details are dependable on the Bible, okay, not in the Quran. The elders of Israel therefore felt the need to appoint as their head someone else under whose leadership they could wage wars. By that time, however, the Israelites had become so deeply infected with ignorance, and the customs and the practices of non-Muslim nations had made such inroads into their lives that the distinction between a religious state committing to serving God and secular monarchy was lost on them. Ya Allah, how similar to who? Muslims now. When they were asking God to support with them, they themselves, they have already generally as a nation lost their connection with God. They are not applying God's commandments anymore. That's why they started asking something, according to their history, they became influenced and infected with the secular people around them. Look how similar now to what we are doing now. How many Muslim nations, Muslim states, simply they have nothing to do with Islam. And we are making dua. That's why we need to take a lesson. Because this was applicable on a religious group used to be believers following the guidance of Allah. Some of them, they started to deviate outside, yet they kept the linkage with God, asking His help. And Allah, between blaming, correcting, fixing, punishing, ups and downs, we are learning what? The lesson. So, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. They sorry, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. I want to quote from the Bible. Look, literally, he's quoting from the Bible. Now, but the people refused to listen to the voice of Samuel, and they said, no, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations. There was a long debate, by the way, in the Bible. The details, there are pages about this story. It could take me at least 1 hour just reading them. But one of the things in the Bible that they want to do exactly to imitate the system of nations around them while they are running and managing their things. It's like now, for example, when you say for Muslims, you can't apply in full what is so-called liberalism. Okay, but apply somewhere, okay. Some people, they believe, because by the way, secularism, liberalism, they go back to a philosophical background. They have a faith-based, connection. Do you know this? It's not just a political, it has an ideology behind it. Because if you want to apply liberalism, by default, you believe in your sacred right of individual freedom. As an ideology, this is completely unacceptable in Islam. Because in Islam, our base, faith-based ideology is you don't have the full freedom to do whatever you want, but you have to abide by the commandment of the Creator who created you. So I don't have a full freedom to take, so it's against our religion just to be responding to your ego. I think. No, in Islam, there is no big consideration for I. It's what He, God Almighty, wants, not what I want. I have the right to use my I, as long as it does not contradict His. So this is a big philosophy and ideology. So therefore, you can't say, I'm a liberal Muslim, if you understand what liberalism is. You got my point? So it has a philosophy. So sometimes, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay, let me continue I prepared a lot of things, but I feel it will take a lot of time. Let me go to the second ayah now. It gives just an idea. Now, second ayah, which is 247. وَقَالَ لَهُمْ نَبِيُّهُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ I will stop by this verse. وَقَالَ لَهُمْ نَبِيُّهُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ بَعَثَ لَكُمْ طَالُوتَ مَلِكًا قالوا أَنَّى يَكُونُ لَهُ الْمُلْكُ عَلَيْنَا وَنَحْنُ أَحَقُّ بِالْمُلْكِ مِنْهُ وَلَمْ يُؤْتَ سَعَةً مِنَ الْمَالِ قال إن الله اصطفاه عليكم وزاده بسطة في العلم والجسم والله يؤتي ملكه من يشاء والله واسع عليم. Look now, their prophet told them. They asked, the prophets asked his Lord, the Lord responded. Now, you were seeking something from your Lord. God responded to you and honored you and gave you the response. What should you be doing? Obey. Show the gratitude, thankfulness, and follow the guidance. You asked, he responded, such and such. Look now what happened. They protested. Their prophet told them, Allah has appointed Saul. Saul in English is Talut in Arabic, okay? Allah has appointed Saul to be your king. They protested, how can he be our king when some of us are more deserving of kingship than he, and he has not been blessed with vast riches. Look how it's so close to the attitude of millions of Muslims now. We keep, look now, said, Ya Allah, God, okay, respond. This person, how come? What do you mean by how come? No, he does not deserve to be our king. Who decides who will be the king? It's Allah, and Allah has decided. No, he does not deserve. أَنَّى يَكُونُ. How come? If you are seeking guidance, truly, how come after asking, you are making modification according to your criteria? So what's the point of asking? Got my point? Ya Allah, help me in such and such nowadays. Okay. The Quran tells you, do so. فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدَّارًا. Ask forgiveness. Do such and such. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, someone says, Ya Allah, there is no blessing in my life. There is no barakah. Oh my Lord, give me blessings in my life. طيب. إن الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس. In other verses, فأذنوا بحرب من الله. Allah is telling you, Ya Allah, give me blessing in my time. God is responding by giving you, if you want a blessing, be far from interest or usury. Because if you do so, you are fighting your Lord. I insist, for example, one of the greatest sins in Islam, to disrespect your parents. You know, it's one of the greatest in Islam. Because Allah did not connect anything after His direct worship with something like He did with the obedience and respect of the parents. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah has ordained that you should worship none but Him and to be kind in your morals and ethics and very respectful to your parents. طيب. Imagine someone, for example, his financial situation is very difficult. His health is really difficult. His spiritual feelings is always down. He came to me. And by the way, I do face such cases. Sometimes, some of my students at the university, they come to me and they say, yeah, Dr. For example, I'm wearing the hijab, I'm praying, I'm doing my best, I don't haram, blah, 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 blah. So, but all the time I feel upset, all the time everything is, is down. I have a lot of obstacles in my life. And then when I ask, I said, how's your relation with your mom? He or she, they say, why you are asking about this? I said, because I know what I'm asking about. How's your relation with your parents? Say, actually, it's miserable. I said, okay, there is the problem. Wallahi, literally it happens with me. It happens with me. Once I remember a sister came to me wearing the full jilbab, the Islamic dress code, and she's memorizing part of the Quran, and inshallah she's doing a lot of Islamic da'wah, but she has a miserable life. When I just investigate, she came to me seeking help. I'm the doctor now. I started digging on her context. So I discovered she has a very, very tough, bad relation with her mother. Actually, she's very rude with her mother. And she was justifying to herself. Because her mother is tough, she justified for herself to react in a tough way, which is completely prohibited in Islam, even if she is tough. Anyway, so sometimes I'm just giving you the parallels now, in parallel. Now, why this story is mentioned here? To take a lesson. We say, whoa, how rude they were. We are doing this now. What happens to our brothers now in Palestine? They should have our full support. Simply we throw them. Is this haram or halal? Do this and this. No, I'm sorry. We don't have the time to do it. We are busy in something else. For example. Now, their prophet told them, Allah has appointed Saul to be your king. They protested, how can he be our king when some of us are more deserving of kingship than he? And he has not been blessed with vast riches. Look now to take a lesson. What was their only criterion and standard to feel that he deserves to be a leader? It was what? Money. Power of money. This is applicable in who now? Humanity on earth now. The same mentality. Humanity. Regardless, they claim human rights, they claim humanitarian, whatever. All of them, they keep using the word H-U-M-A-N, human, 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 human. In reality, money. Money talks. Power of money. Even politicians, they keep preaching, supporting. Out of a sudden, he will do something completely. He will vote against everything he was talking. You dig and search, someone is paying him. Oh my God. Literally, this is what? Hypocrisy. Why? Money. This is what we need now. By the way, so this is not a surprise. And by the way, we have hypocrites from all cultures, all ethnic origins, all religions. That's why, you know, and hypocrisy is a horrible disease in Islam. And in Islam, hypocrites deserve the highest level of punishment in the day of judgment. But I mean, the idea is the standard or the criterion that they use to see who deserves. And this is one of the biggest differences between Islamic thinking and secular materialistic thinking. The base of the standard of judgment is not materialistic. Here, see, money. He deserves to be because he has the money, which is now dominant in 99% of any politician on earth now. How come? He does not have vast richness to be a king. Who told you that God's criterion when he decides to make someone as a leader depends just on money? Who told you that? Actually, it does not depend on money. This gives you an idea why many people, they are fighting Islam. Because Islam does not accept their criterion, which has nothing to do with humans. Look to the divine criterion of who deserves to be a leader. The Prophet replied, Allah has chosen him over you and blessed him with knowledge and stature. وَزَادَهُ بَسْطَةً فِي الْعِلْمِ. Then with the physical power. Number one, what? Ilm. Knowledge. So the biggest criterion in Islam is not money. It's what? Ilm, knowledge. And many people, especially non-Muslims, they don't know that the first verse was revealed, actually the first word in the first verse that was revealed in the whole Quran, it was read. Iqra. Which means the most well-known basic tool, way, path that leads to knowledge. Because how do you seek knowledge? You read. Subhanallah, and even Allah mentioned in another ayah, Allama bil qalam. He has taught with, the pen or the pencil. So it's part of the knowledge. Then the physical power. Quran did not deny the importance of the power, but not necessarily the money, the physical, but after the knowledge. Because the physical power with no knowledge means no fear, no taqwa, no mindful of Allah, no respect, nothing at all. So physical power, Now, someone bodybuilding, very powerful, but no faith. What could stop him from killing anyone if he decided to do so? Why should he? If he's angry from anyone and he can finish his life in a second, what will stop him? Nothing. In Islam, even he is the most powerful person on earth. Definitely there's something that will stop him. God Almighty, because he believes that God does exist and he's most powerful than him. Forget the philosophical things. You should respect human values. Habibi. No. It's a power and faith. If you know that your Lord is able to take your soul at any moment, you have to have fear from him, and you know that you will not do injustice for others. Otherwise, at any moment, you could do anything. Is this proven or not? Look to anyone who claims humanity now. When CCTV cameras are absent, or this person is a gangster. He's controlling the judicial system, or the law system, or the court system, or the police system. He has the power with money, or politicians, or physical power. What stops those people from doing any crime? You tell me. What stops them? Nothing. Just name it. Drugs, human trafficking, rape, massacres, mass killing. What stops them? If this group of X at any country, they are controlling the government or the power or the police or the judicial system, what stops them? Nothing. When they will stop? When they know that they will be brought to justice with the enforcement of the power by someone who is more powerful than them, then they will stop. That's it. This is the nature of human beings. If you know that no one can stop you, you will allow yourself to do whatever you want. And don't talk about ethics, human ethics. Because a human ethics without faith in God is a nonsense. There's no human ethics. There's what? Subjective ethics. You know what subjective ethics are? What you think when you want to think is good for you is good. Because you decided it's good. So there is no objectivity. For me now, if I have the power, for me, it's out of my interest that this place is mine. If I have the power to make it mine, and no one can stop against me, why not to make it mine? From my point of view, it's my interest. And I would love to have it. What will stop me? The law. Not the existence of the law. My faith in the power of enforcement of the law, not the law itself. Got my point? Just knowing that the law does exist is not enough. If you know that there's enforcement of the law, you will count to 10. True or false? This is a reality. But anyway, I'm just comparing between being person of faith or being someone who's following just your materialistic liberal desires. Anyway, but this is understood from Allah has chosen him over you and blessed him with knowledge and stature. Allah grants kingship to whoever he wills, and Allah is all bountiful, all knowing. Now, according to this, we submit to God Almighty. When Allah decides to give the stature, the prestige for someone, it's his decision, not us. Yani, for example, in our calculations as human beings, the very rich person should be highly respected. In Islam, a very rich person who does not respect the religion has no respect. But a very poor, weak person memorizes the Quran. He's a scholar, alim, high prestige. But does not have a money, who cares? No family, who cares? No relations, who cares? No connections, who cares? No reputation, but he's not an influencer, he does not have 5 million followers on TikTok. Who cares? You see? Now for us, who's the influencer? The famous. In Islam, fame in itself is not a target. It could be a way to Jahannam, to the hellfire. So we don't seek fame. Oh, I want to be famous. Wait. No problem to be famous, inshallah. However, to be famous in what? Now, in the liberal way of thinking, wow, he's very famous. Wait. I don't care. Famous in what? Regardless, he's an influencer. When he speaks, 10 millions putting like and following and looking. Wait. He, she is doing what? Regardless. La habibi. For me, it's a big difference. Are you with me? He's very influenced in making filthy, dirty stand-up comedian jokes. Do we have those people? Wallahi, sometimes, sometimes the logarithm of the social media, it brings a lot of things in your face without you seeking for it sometimes. I don't want to mention the names. Sometimes stand-up comedians, they come up in my faces. Sometimes I like just to understand the you know, English is not my native language. So sometimes one of the ways that I try to educate myself with the language is listening to politicians and stand-up comedians. This is my way. I listen to politicians and stand-up comedians. Don't ask me why. Okay, but anyway. So because they use a lot of difficult accent, okay, and sometimes very quickly, and sometimes, so I just try to, you know, make my ear familiar. Anyway, so, wallahi, sometimes I'm completely shocked with how filthy and dirty language they use. I can't imagine. They mention, while they are laughing and the people are clapping, very private sexual conducts with his girlfriend in public. What? Is this something which I'm saying, oh, influencer? Oh my God. Very famous. Millions of followers. That's why the Facebook suggested it to me. So I might be a fan of him. This is the criteria of liberal, materialistic, individualistic way. For me, no, as a Muslim. And I always, and let me finish at least today's session with this. For me, I always highlight the following example to be careful when talking about fame. Influencer, well-known, famous. I always mention these two names. Who is more famous, Umar al-Khattab or Abu Lahab? What do you think? Who's more famous? Abu Lahab, definitely. 100%. Because Abu Lahab is mentioned in the Quran, and Quran is recited day and night 24/7 while I'm speaking with you. في حاجة؟ Okay. When I'm speaking with you, I started I think about 40 minutes ago, maybe at least 10, 15, 20, maybe 40 million persons, they cursed Abu Lahab. Because they read the Quran, تبت يدا أبي لهب وتب. May the curse of God be upon Abu Lahab. Who is Abu Lahab? The direct uncle of Prophet Muhammad. Okay. طب Umar al-Khattab, one of the greatest followers of Prophet Muhammad, is he mentioned in the Quran? No. We could just estimate randomly the people who know Umar al-Khattab, maybe quarter or third of those who know, because anyone recites the Quran is mentioning Abu Lahab. But not anyone is speaking about Umar al-Khattab or memorizing his name or understanding the seerah or so definitely Umar al-Khattab and Abu Bakr, both of them, they are, and Aisha, all of them, they are less famous than Abu Lahab. But Abu Lahab is famous by being one of the most well-known, punished, cursed people in the history of humanity. Because he's mentioned by his name, even though he's the direct uncle of Prophet Muhammad. And part of my seeking reward between me and Allah is to curse this person. What? Yes. Because when you read the Quran, you say, تَبَّتْ يَدَا أَبِي لَهَبْ. You are seeking what? Reward, ajr. Ya Rabb. طيب. Now the question, is Abu Lahab famous? Yes. In our terminology, is he an influencer? Yes. طبعا. But in what? May Allah protect all of us. So let's now, part of listening to the stories of the children of Israel, it's a lesson for us. Our today's lesson basically there at that time criterion, standard in judging who deserves what, compared with the decision of Allah. And we have many examples in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, is advising some new Muslims, they were seeking to marry from non-believers. So Allah is telling them, be careful. A non-believer could be much more beautiful than a believer female. But a non-believer is taking you to the hellfire, and the believer is taking you to the paradise. Be careful. So don't just be touched with the external shape of beauty. What is this? This is exactly one hour of biggest criterion, queen of beauty. And she will be one of the, they call it Miss Beauty, I think, huh? Or Miss Queen, what do they call it? ملكة جمال العالم. Huh? Miss Universe, okay. Miss Universe, and at a certain point she could be the most famous, beautiful female on earth in that year. True or false? Type. She's famous in what? With something she does not have a decision in. It's a gift from God. Her external shape. Plus 1 million surgery things that has been done, you know, plastic surgery. What? In Islamic criterion, who should be valued more? The very beautiful woman or the pious woman? The memorizer of the Quran woman. Okay? The very nice, wonderful mother woman. The amazing, wonderful hero wife woman. This is our criteria. So that's why, by the way, that's why human beings are definitely in need for Islam. Period. Today's session is finished. See you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
يعطيك العافية.
يعافيك يا رب. سعادة الله كحبيبي.